Coming in second here, I think no surprise, are the Georgia Grizzlies, who had the craziest turnaround of any team this past season. Started off, I believe, 0-6. Don't quote me on that. I know they started off 2-6, but they came all the way back to make it to the Super Bowl. And I gave them the 49ers team comparison. I just think that the way that they run the ball so much and have such an effective run scheme is really reminiscent of the 49ers. They also made it to the Super Bowl, so that's definitely worth noting in the comparison. I'm going to shoot over to the overall ratings before I discuss the players you see on the right side there. 99 overall offense. I think they had the hardest offense to stop in the entire league. Now, don't discount the Super Bowl champions. They have a great offense too, but I do think that I give this Georgia offense the edge ever so slightly. I do give them a 95 defense as well. I think that their defense is very good. Anytime you can consistently stop teams in this league when you're not even using your best corner is just impressive to me. Overall, the only thing I think that they're lacking is coaching. I think that Jack Gish offered a lot of leadership. I think that Zawad Khan could be a great coach if he was at the games more. Honestly, the reason that he won Coach of the Year is because he was responsible for adding one of, if not the best players in the league, Ryan Beltran, who gets their MVP award. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Best player on defense, best player on offense. Definitely worth noting that he didn't play a lot of defense, but I think talent-wise, he is definitely there. Offensive Player of the Year is going to be Jack Gish. Added so much in that run game, second in the league in rushing touchdowns, and had about 500 yards, was also up there with the league leaders passing. The only thing he was really lacking that kept him from getting awards was the fact that he led the league in turnovers. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Joey Mazzola. No one more deserving on this team. Led the league in passes defended, had 2 punt return touchdowns, which I've said in the past I kind of classify as defense. And led the league in tackles as well, and overall was, I guess you could say, the cornerback one on this team. Moving over to the left side of your screen here, I gave them an A at quarterback, pretty self-explanatory. Already told how Jack Gish helped this team and this offense. Great run game out of him, great pass game down the stretch. He gets an A rating, A+ at running back. I mean, these guys are easily the best run offense in the entire league. Were absolutely unstoppable until they got to the Super Bowl, which is why they get an A+ there. Wide receiver also going to be an A. They have, I think, the best wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 combo in the league. I'm not going to go out there and say that Beltran's the best wide receiver 1 and Carbone's the best wide receiver 2, but you could say that, and I don't think anyone could knock you for it. I'm just going to say that they're the best combo for now. Now, moving on to tight end, they don't really have a lot of size on that offense, don't have the best blockers, so I went with a B-. Their scheme does not really require blockers, I will say. It's more about misdirection. And then their defense, I went with B+ across the board. They are good against the run. They are good against the pass. Neither of them really stood out to me as amazing over the top. Definitely really good against both, but I think that they are definitely vulnerable on defense versus offense. And who better to start things off with than the Georgia Grizzlies MVP, Ryan Beltran. I went with Tyreek Hill on offense. There's really no weakness in this guy's game on offense, but if I had to pick one, it would be short and medium routes because he doesn't really run them. He's just going to run down the field, burn you, or catch a contested ball for a touchdown. 19 of his 26 receptions were touchdowns, which is just absurd. Definitely warrants that Tyreek Hill player comparison. And on defense, I went with Jalen Ramsey just because his technique, the fact that he can get up in your face and run press coverage so effectively is just wild to me. Also very physical, very strong, great in the run game, can make any tackle, which is why he warrants both of those player comparisons. Now here we will move on to Nick Carbone, their other offensive weapon, who I gave a offensive player comparison of Christian McCaffrey. Now, I would list him as a running back simply because I think he's just so much better running the ball than he is as a receiver downfield. I think he's the best true running back in the league, which is why he gets player comparison of Christian McCaffrey. Now, he's just so elusive, so good at breaking tackles, and so fast, but he's also a great route runner. The only knock really on his game, as I said earlier, is the catching, which it's still great. We saw him drop a couple balls downfield, but does it really matter? No. So he will be getting a 95 overall on offense. We move over to defense, where we did not really see a lot of him. However, I'm still going to give him a Tre'Davious White player comparison. I feel like I saw enough of him to know that he could be really talented on defense. It's just not really Georgia's thing to play people on both sides of the ball. I think something can be said that it's definitely a good move to have people fresh for either side of the ball. As someone who only had 4 players on my team last year and lost to Georgia, I can say that it definitely plays in their favor. Overall, I think that his best strength is how agile he is, which is why he gets a 95 agility, but he's definitely not lacking with that 89 pass coverage, and he will have an 89 overall. Now we move on here to quarterback Jack Gish, who will get a player comparison of Brock Purdy. I feel like it just fits well. As of right now, the Super Bowl this year has not happened, but Brock Purdy made it to the Super Bowl, which I think is a fair comparison. Overall, I think they're both just kind of slept on. Like, you can say that Brock Purdy is a kind of result of these great offensive weapons he has surrounding him. You can say that about Gish, but when it comes down to it, I think that they are both very talented. Just because you can do everything that you're asked to do and you don't go above and beyond like the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens of the league, doesn't mean that you're bad. I think that that's just an asinine thing to say. I think they both do exactly what they need to do in their offense, and that's why I think that they're both so good. On defense, we did not see a lot of Gish, but when he was out there, he was pretty good. He got an interception while playing defensive line, which is honestly the main reason that I gave him a player comparison of Aiden Hutchinson. But, I think that there's something to be said about the fact that they're both young, looking for more opportunity. We'll kind of just see where Georgia goes with their defense in the future. I don't think we'll be seeing him out there at defensive line much because they tend to do something more creative with that third spot on defense. We'll see later in the video. They do have a safety that they tend to throw out there a lot, plays a little zone coverage, contains the quarterback. Overall, I think Aiden Hutchinson's a fair comparison, and Jack Gish is an 83 on defense and an 88 on offense. Next up here, we have Joey Mazzola, who on offense didn't really see a lot of him. He definitely lacked the catching, which I think is why they elected to go in a different direction offensively. But I gave him Keaton Mitchell as a player comparison. And if you don't know who Keaton Mitchell is, he's a running back out of ECU, and he is one of the fastest running backs in the league. Joey Mazzola, with that blazing speed, I gave him a 99, which I feel is pretty fair. Just made a lot of sense to go ahead and give him Keaton Mitchell on offense. I would like to see more of Joey Mazzola in this offense as we start being a 4-on-4 league. I really wanted them to start handing the ball off to him early in the season because I'm just curious what this kid can do with some carries in an offense. Now, on to defense, which I feel is certainly his strong suit. I give him a player comparison of Marlon Humphrey just because of how physically he plays. I feel like that is a pretty fair comparison. I went ahead and gave him 99 tackling. Led the league in tackles, and his pursuit is just unlike anything I've ever seen. He has probably the fastest pursuit speed I've ever seen in any sport. Fastest player I've seen in person. He just has some crazy, crazy wheels. Also gets 99 speed, if I haven't said that already. Pass coverage at corner, I think, was probably his weakness, but he was steadily improving over the course of the entire season, and he gets a 94 overall on defense. He was up there as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and his overall certainly reflects that. Final player here for the Grizzlies, and it's Rocco Shea. Did not see a lot of him on offense. However, I think he would be more of a receiving running back, which is why I gave him Jerick McKinnon as a player comparison. And where he really ended up playing a lot was defense, and I give him a player comparison of L'Jarius Sneed. I think that there's more to be seen from him. I think that there's some development to be done. I'd guess that he has a soccer background because he seems to not really understand the pass interference rules at times, which is okay. I mean, it's definitely an adjustment. He gets 84 pass coverage specifically for that reason, but what we saw out of him is great tackling on defense, definitely very agile and very fast, which is why he's going to get an 85 overall on defense. Finally, here we have Zawad Khan, Coach of the Year. He gets that Nick Saban comparison just because of the recruiting he did to get Ryan Beltran and Nick Carbone on the team. That move certainly single-handedly got them to the Super Bowl, and I would argue single-handedly got them into the playoffs, which is why his rating is so high there. He gets an 88 overall on defense. I think lacks the play calling and the dedication. He's a busy guy. He wasn't there a lot, which completely understandable. And then, honestly, I just kind of ignore the defensive player comparison. I was just throwing numbers out there because he didn't really play a lot. That is all for the Georgia Grizzlies. I'm so excited to see how they will pan out as we move into 4-on-4. I think that they have probably less depth than the other teams in the top three. I'm sure you guys can guess who the number one team is, but I would love it if you could tune in and listen to my analysis on them. And thank you guys for listening.